Did you know that one of the very best classical music composers of all time composed some of his best music in Iowa? Hi, this is Charting Transcendence. Come with me today as we visit Spillville, Iowa, a town of just 385 people in the northeast corner of the state. It was settled primarily by Czech speakers from the mid-19th century. In 1892, Dvorak was appointed the director of the National Conservatory of Music in America in New York City. He had become very famous in the U.S. It was his first extended stay outside of his homeland, and having spent a year in New York City already, he was longing for some peace and quiet in the countryside, among his fellow Czech countrymen, of course. Now, in early June of 1893, Dvorak took the train from New York to Chicago, and then from Chicago all the way to Calmer, Iowa, which is just about 4 or 5 miles from Spillville. Here we can see a mural depicting what Spillville looked like around that time. It doesn't look too much different today. The village is almost entirely Czech-speaking, and today there are still a couple of Czech speakers around. He took up lodging in this house, which is now a museum. It has some interesting folk craft art as well as an exhibit dedicated to the time that Dvorak spent here. In this very house, he ended up composing 2 of his most famous chamber music works, the String Quartet in F, otherwise known as the American String Quartet, as well as the String Quintet in E-flat major. They're both beautiful pieces of music. I'm sampling on this TikTok a 1928 recording of the String Quartet in F, the American String Quartet, just the first 2 movements. I hope you enjoy it. Now, while in Spillville, it is said that Dvorak would take long walks every morning, as well as come to this church here, St. Wenceslaus Catholic Church, which still is operating today. He would play the organ and also work out things that were useful for his composing. Dvorak participated in the cultural life of the town and the surrounding communities as well. So in those days, in the summers in Iowa, there were various traveling music shows of popular music at that time, things like minstrel shows and Native American music performances. Dvorak was fascinated by these American influences and sought to apply them to his own music in order to create a unique idiom of American music and classical performance, which had not been seen up until that time. In a local park called the Inwood, there is a monument here to Dvorak's time, the summer of 1893 in Spillville. And for years after returning to Europe in 1895, he would very fondly recall his time spent in Iowa. Even as he was struck by the sadness and isolation of the people living in and around Spillville was just very different than Europe. And this worked its way into the String Quartet in F's second movement, the Lento. This story has deep personal meaning to me because I am of Czech ancestry and my grandparents raised my father on a farm about 10 miles from Spillville. Thanks for joining me today. Please follow and like Charting Transcendence for more.